Hi, I'm Susan Roth. I'm an associate professor of culinary arts here at Northampton Community College. I love cooking. I love to show my passion to the students, and today I'm going to be making a braised short rib over wild mushroom bread pudding with sauteed Brussels sprouts and a red onion marmalade. Okay, so what I've started preparing here today are the braised short ribs in the Guinness Stout sauce. Short ribs are a tougher cut of meat from the beef steer, and so what I did earlier was brown the meat, season and brown the meat, and then I added Guinness beer, dark beer to this, beef stock, and carrot, celery, and onions, some fresh thyme, and so this has been cooking in the liquid for about 3.5 hours to make it nice and tender. Should be fork tender when you serve it. Short ribs are a wonderful entree, nice meat for a winter meal when it's nice and cold outside. It'll definitely warm you to your bones. Okay, so what I have here is close to finished product of the red onion marmalade, and this recipe calls for sliced onions, some minced garlic, red wine vinegar, and sugar, and you saute the onions to start them cooking along with the garlic, and then you add the red wine vinegar and the sugar to it, and it creates a liquid in there, and you cook it down until it creates more of a syrup. So as you can see from here, we have most of the liquid is evaporated and cooked out, and the onions are nice and soft and glazed, and so this is almost ready to serve on top of our short ribs. So we're going to let this cook for about another probably 10 minutes to reduce this down a little bit further. Okay, so we're going to put, our pan is nice and hot here. We have some olive oil in there. We're going to put our mushroom mixture in here, our onions or shallots, and the garlic. Cook that for a few minutes to soften everything. To saute, you have to have the right pan, and the pan needs to have a curved side to it, like this, okay? And then if the pan is hot, it will jump back in the pan. Saute means to jump in the pan, and when you have a hot pan, it will jump back in the pan. Okay? In the meantime, while we're waiting for that to finish, we're going to crack a couple eggs here. You want to whisk them well so that you don't have clumps of egg yolk or egg white in the bread pudding, and it's nice and smooth. So we're going to add 2 cups of milk to this, and 2 cups of heavy cream. And to that, we're going to add in 4 to 6 cups of bread cubes, and they can be stale bread cubes. They work for the best because they're going to absorb some of this liquid. And let that sit in there, and then go back to our mushrooms. We're going to add some fresh thyme to our mushrooms in the saute pan. And try to season every component of your dish. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper also in the bread pudding mixture. To the base, I'm going to add some chopped parsley. A little bit of fresh chopped parsley. You could add dill to this, or any other herb that you would like. Some minced chives would be good. Even sage would be wonderful in this, especially this time of year. I'm going to add parsley to this, and we're going to add our gorgonzola cheese. Now, best case scenario is that you're able to leave this overnight in your refrigerator and let it soak into the bread. But at the very minimum, about an hour in the refrigerator to let it soak into the bread. Okay, so we're going to put our mushrooms, which have cooled off slightly, right into the bread pudding mixture, and stir that all together. So now this has been sitting for a while, so I'm going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese to this. Just add a little bit more cheese. So what happens with this is we're going to spoon this into the mold. And if you were doing this in a casserole dish, just spoon it right into the casserole dish. And you can fill it all the way up to the top. It's not going to overflow. It's not like a cake batter. It will rise up above the silpat a bit, but then when you take it out of the oven and it cools off, it'll sink right back down. So if you do individuals, you get out of this recipe, you get about 20 of these bread puddings. So we're going to take this to the oven, and because they're in individual silpats, this is only going to take about 15 minutes in the oven. And if you were making it at home and you were going to use the casserole dish, that's going to take closer to an hour. We have the benefit of a wonderful rotating oven here, but they bake just as well in a home oven. Okay, so here we have the finished bread puddings. Just come out of the oven. Nice and crispy and golden on top. Some of the gorgonzola is melted in there, you can see that. We'll let those cool off for a couple minutes while we move on to the Brussels sprouts. I'm going to put the garlic in here and a little pinch of the caraway seed. It can overpower a dish, so just a pinch, just to give it a little bit of that caraway flavor. And if you're not sure what caraway tastes like, it tastes like the same flavor as what's in rye bread. It gives rye bread part of its flavor. And you see they're getting a little bit of color. That's what you want. So a little bit of caramelization is always a good thing. The Brussels sprouts were already cooked, part cooked, so we're just giving them a little bit of finished heat, a little bit of seasoning, and a little bit of color to the dish. And then we're going to assemble the whole dish here with the bread pudding, the short ribs, the Brussels sprouts, and the red onion marmalade. The meat at this stage of the game has gotten very tender. You'll see, I'll cut one open so that you can see how tender the meat gets. It's kind of like doing a high-end pot roast. The short ribs are really a sought-after dish now. A lot of chefs enjoy making them because it shows a cooking technique a little bit different than grilling a steak. And so there's a lot more time put into it. Sometimes people will say there's a lot more love put into it because you're taking the time doing lots of different steps to come out with a great finished product. We're going to put that on top of the bread pudding. And we're going to spoon a small amount of sauce over the top of that because you need to have some of that sauce, that wonderful sauce. And we'll top it off with a little bit of our red onion marmalade, which is going to give it a wonderful sweet and sour acidic taste. With a few of our little baby Brussels sprouts on the plate, just garnishing around the dish.